let's get that first start. This vehicle, I must say, touch wood, every single time I've started it since I got it running well and flushed the engine, it's just started right up and it sounds really good. So check this out. It's just around 1100 RPM right now. When the engine is warm, the car usually will just idle at about 800 RPM, so really smooth. And this is that M111 engine, you know, pushing out just about 100 horsepower and a simple inline 4-cylinder engine, which is very, very reliable, and iron block. Alright, so you joined me on a bit of a rainy day in Nairobi. Been having a bit of funny weather, but I'm gonna try my best to explain to you how this car has actually been treating me. And you know what I used to love about this car, and I'll do a separate video which compares the value of an old Mercedes versus, you know, some of the newer cars, or, you know, a Toyota IST or a Toyota Corolla. You know, you could pick up one of these for the same money that you could pick up a mid-spec sort of Toyota IST, and the value and the experience you get in something like this is totally unrivaled, you know. So it's such a big value. So I've been driving this vehicle, you know, I flushed the engine and it was performing really well. The throttle was the last bit that I hadn't figured out, you know. The issue was that every time I would, especially in the mornings, on a cold start, the revs would struggle to keep as high as they should. And I had already replaced the MAF sensor, so I knew it wasn't the MAF sensor. But basically, even when I would change gears, as soon as I would let go of the clutch and hit the accelerator, I wasn't getting the power immediately. You know, I was getting a delay of about probably just a second of a delay, but that does create an impact, no doubt. But once the engine was warm, this thing sort of subsided just a bit, but it was still there. And I have since figured the issue out. I took it to a bunch of my mechanics. They did a bunch of things with it, but never really sorted it out. And so I managed to just sort it out myself, and I will tell you later in this video what that ended up to be. So with the bushings and a bunch of other things I've replaced, this vehicle drives really well. And you know, I've daily driven it for, it's been about 2-3 months now, where this vehicle, sometimes just 2 weeks in a row, I would choose to drive in this vehicle versus my Land Cruiser. And it has treated me so well. This vehicle has not let me down once. It starts right up. The engine is now performing so well. In fact, there wasn't a time when I remember this engine performing this well as it is now. You know, even when I used to drive this car back in the day, I wasn't a car guy. I didn't know everything that I know now. And there were definitely issues with the vehicle. And it didn't have the power that it should have had. And right now this vehicle is performing as good as I have ever seen it perform. The power is right there, and when we get to a straight road, I'll show you that. But it's just performing really well. Even though it's just 100 horsepower, I must stress that the way they've built this particular W202, you know, the weight distribution and the way this vehicle is, it's just it just sucks up city driving, you know, that kind of stop and go traffic, windy roads like you get in Nairobi, you know, having to downshift and overtake slow drivers or whatever is on the road. This vehicle is just ideal, and that's why it's my choice sometimes when I really need to move around Nairobi quickly without thinking too much about it, you know, just get in, move and get out. here's another example of the issue with Nairobi roads is you may have good roads and then suddenly it's just washed out. But as you can hear from the vehicle, that power delivery is really good. I mean, we're on quite a steep incline right now, and I'm in second gear, and it's just pulling, and it can pull a lot more. So just listen to this and see that power delivery. We're in second gear now. Coming up to a highway now. Let's hear that engine again. We're in third gear. And you know, it's such laid back power. You can see how I'm sitting back. It's an ultimate experience, you know. And it's a small 4-cylinder engine, but the power delivery is so good. You know, Mercedes-Benz had perfected this M111 engine, and that's why it was in so many vehicles of this era, from W124s to W210s. That this engine was modified in a bunch of ways to have from 100 horsepower, you know, all the way up to 300 plus in some of those AMG models. But without a doubt, one thing that I love so much is driving a manual, but not just any manual. This 5-speed manual, it just feels so good, you know. And what you have to do, and what I will show you, is you do have to grease those linkages in your throttle in the front, because over time that metal gets a bit, almost like it seizes, and you know, it loses its flexibility. So you put some grease in there, and you'll just notice an immediate difference on how that accelerator pedal feels and how it responds to you. But this transmission works so well, and the car is very efficient. I mean, I believe we have just a 62-liter tank, and 62 liters is going to give me about 600 kilometers range, so just about 10 kilometers per liter, which is not bad at all, considering this vehicle is a 1996. And you know, I see other people roaming on the roads in Toyota, base spec Toyotas, and you know, the ISTs and those that would probably be the same value if you purchased. Now granted, that's a newer car, but can you get this kind of value? This vehicle has real wood trim. This vehicle is so solidly built. You know, you close this door, it feels like a vault. You've got good sound insulation. You've got a big wide windscreen, and you know, just so many creature comforts. These fabric seats have not aged a day, and you know, they're 26 years old. The latches, the doors are all simple. You know, you want to work on this. This panel comes out with just 2 screws, or even 1 screw, I'm not sure, but I've seen this panel out, and it's so easy to work on. And you know, as cars get more modern and newer, those kind of things are going away. The fact that you know, 2 bolts can hold a panel together, and things are just getting put together more with more complexity, which is not always a good thing. So this vehicle has served me so well to travel kilometers. You know, I need to travel 40, 50, 60 kilometers a day if I'm going up country. This car just eats it up, I must say. It feels nothing. And I love changing the gears. It's responsive. There is power, and I'll show you that just now as well. Second gear. And it's a loud engine. The M111 was known to be quite loud. It's totally adequate. You're not going to find yourself lagging behind any new sort of vehicles. In fact, joining the highway right now, we're just coming up next to this Range Rover Evoque, and we're just gonna pass it up. And that's what I mean by it just eats the highways up, it just eats the roads up, it feels nothing. And it feels so solidly put. You know, change a bunch of those bushings as the vehicle ages. Treat that engine well, you know, let it have the best of oils. I know a lot of people, as they see these vehicles, you know, becoming older, and because they become older, people don't put in as much parts in them because the vehicle is not worth the parts that you put into it. And the Mercedes parts are for this vehicle, they're not expensive, but they're not so cheap. They're not so cheap either, and so you have to be mindful of that. But if you give your vehicle good oil, and if you treat it well, and you know, if you don't drive it in a way like you don't drive it like you stole it, you know, take care of your vehicle, it just runs so well. And I hope that it continues to serve me like this, because I have been giving it the best of oils. I have put in the parts, and there are still parts that are going to have to go in this. You have to remember, when you drive a vehicle that's 25 years old, you know, some people will look at these videos and believe that it's so simple. Just go out there and buy your 25-year-old Mercedes and you'll be good to go. That's not entirely the whole story. There will be expenses and there will be things that come up, and you have to be willing to make decisions on what to go for. Certain parts you're not going to buy used, and certain parts you're not going to be able to get the specific part. You might have to get 2-3 parts put together, because that's how sometimes Mercedes sells these. But if you do these things, and if you give these vehicles a bit of love, I promise you the experiences that they give us are gonna be 10-20 times better than modern vehicles. Modern vehicles are sort of, especially the Toyotas and the simple vehicles, not the Land Cruisers and the vehicles that they really do up, but the more simpler Toyota vehicles. They don't have the personality, they don't have the class that something like this does. Even when you turn up, you know, a 26-year-old vehicle, even still when you turn up at restaurants or other places and this vehicle looks so spick and span, they're going to open up a parking for you, or they're going to let you park in a parking that you wouldn't usually park in, just like that. And this particular vehicle, you know, there is also a bit of sentimental value, and that's probably why I put in all the parts, because my own mother drove me to school in this vehicle, you know, probably a decade ago, and then it became my vehicle, and I have experienced plenty of drives and plenty of moments, and growing up driving this vehicle, and now at 25 years old I'm still in this vehicle. And so, you know, it's almost like there's almost like a living element to it with me. You know, I feel like this vehicle is aging with me, and so I don't mind putting the parts and keeping it running. And you know, it gives me pleasure to see this vehicle running well, running strong. You know, that engine really purring. I love it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. You gotta love those manuals, and look at how it pulls. Second gear, 4,000 RPM, we change up. Third gear, climbing a hill, but still absolutely alright. And I got someone blocking me, so I can't actually take off. But the other benefits of a manual is drop back down to third, and we're good to go again. And there's just something that's been lost when we went to automatic gearboxes, you know. There's nothing like the control you get when you're actually driving a manual. You know, you are actually in control of every aspect of the vehicle and how it's moving. And there's something about that has been lost when we've moved to automatic transmissions. And so I hope in the future we don't totally lose the automatic transmissions. You know, I've seen some manufacturers still bringing out brand new vehicles with manual transmissions. So I told you the last aspect that I wanted to show you was that throttle. So we're just going to come to the front of the vehicle now and actually show you what I mean. So here's where that throttle is. And basically what you want to do, what I had that was the issue, was the throttle wasn't engaging properly, but once the engine was hot, it was engaging just fine, which meant that some of these linkages were getting a bit aged. And so if you spray a bit of WD-40 and put a bit of grease right here, it'll do the job for you. This is basically your throttle. So these linkages is where you want to work on, so that this is a smooth action, because this connects to your accelerator pedal, and that's basically your cable. So as I was saying, these are the linkages I'm talking about. These are all your throttle linkages, and over time these will get really stiff. And so what will happen is your accelerator pedal will be pulling these linkages, but they're not pulling well, and so it's taking extra strain. So just spray a bit of WD-40 around here, put some grease here, so that this is a very smooth action.